Hey guys, you're in the machine. Yoga can be confusing and even a little intimidating if you haven't practiced much before. There's probably words you've never heard, exercises you've never tried before, people in all kinds of wild positions with funky jewelry and tight pants. But it's only as hard as you make it. Yoga is meant to be for you. But it's not a bad idea to sort of know what to expect when you go into a class. So this video is meant to familiarize you with some of the more common poses and the names and some of the procedures and routines in a typical yoga class. If you're a beginner, this is the right place for you. If you're a teacher and you want to get more people pumped up about yoga, this is for you also. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. Namaste. You're going to hear that a lot. Don't worry about it. It's like a really special, nice way of letting someone know you appreciate them, like a verbal hug in Sanskrit. Let's start in a relaxing position. Most classes begin in some sort of a resting posture, oftentimes out flat on your back, a position called Savasana or corpse pose, sometimes just seated Indian style with your legs crossed. A real common one is child's pose, which we're going to do now. Middle of your mat, wide knees, toes barely touch, and we round forward to reach the mat. This is kind of important because it starts to stretch your back, and that rounded spine is actually where it gets its name, child's pose. That primary curve is kind of like a fetal position. So you do want to round your back, feel a little stretch in the low back, drop your head to the mat if you can, the forehead, reach the arms forward, and take a few breaths, really deep breaths. That's why the knees are wide, to allow our stomach to expand. The most important part of your beginning resting posture in yoga is to set a breath pace and kind of relax and give yourself permission to be at yoga. Try to clear your mind a little bit and say, it's okay to be here for the next 20, 30, 40, 60 minutes or whatever, because whatever else is going on, we'll wait until afterwards. So child's pose, knees wide, hips down, aiming towards your heels. If you can't touch them, that's okay, but you're aiming them that way. Rounding the back to drop the forehead, and then reach the arms forward. And you'll find some people with the arms back or to the side or whatever, but the big deal here is the spine, round. A few deep breaths, trying to breathe through the nose, not the mouth. Yogis say mouth is for eating, nose is for breathing. So here, a few deep breaths, relaxing, deepest breaths of the day. This is kind of like a gauge for how hard you're working. If you're breathing too heavy and you start panting through the mouth, you need to back off and use your nose. So just a few more deep breaths here. We're going to come up to a tabletop when we're ready, which is just like it sounds, all fours, palms under shoulders, planted on the mat with wide fingers, knees under hips. We're going to try to engage with the tops of our feet down and make this a real stable table. For just a second. The engagement comes from the core, and imagine pulling your stomach muscles back up toward your spine. We're going to do a few cat-cows, another really common opening posture in yoga to get our spine moving front to back. The spine moves in 6 ways. This is front to back. So tailbone up, like you're really arching your back, shoulders back, lead with the chest and look up. And this is the cow. Imagine like a dairy cow with a big heavy stomach. This is the cat. It's the fun one, like a ticked off Halloween cat. Push away, separate your shoulders, tuck your tailbone and drive up. When you think you're high enough, give it another push. Should be a great stretch for your low back and your upper back between your shoulder blades. And then we inhale, back to the cow. Drop the stomach, lead with the chest. Don't jam your shoulders up here. Keep them back away. Look up, tailbone up, and exhale, cat. Tuck the tailbone, push away, look down towards your knees. And inhale, cow. Let's just do a few more of these on our own while I explain the breathing a little bit. If you can time your breath such that you inhale when you do opening moves or extensions like this, and then you exhale when you do closing moves, or flexions like this, it's not only going to distract you a little bit and put you in kind of a movement zone, but it's also more anatomically sound because you're not crunched over trying to inflate your lungs. It just kind of makes sense. And that's a general rule. You're not going to find yourself able to do that everywhere, but usually exhale when we close the body and inhale when we open the body. Just a few more of these. And we're going right up to what's called a downward dog pose, Adho Mukha Svanasana, if you want to really sound like you know what you're doing. Palms stay, knees lift, hips lift, and we try to push back, like we're going to form the shape of an upside down V. Eventually you want your heels down on the mat to stretch the heck out of your calves and your hamstrings, but it doesn't have to be right away. But try to keep your legs straight. Oftentimes people try to get lower by bending their knees. That's a different pose called bear, but for now we're looking for this downward dog. The first one you try, even if you do it a lot, the first one of the day is going to be pretty tight, so it's okay to pedal out your heels. Yoga teachers say that all the time. It makes me think they never rode a bike. But take turns alternating, poking your buns one way and the other and dropping the heels. Find some stillness, and we're going to walk up nice and easy to a hanging, lazy forward fold. Knees can be a little bent, and all I'm trying to do is get a little stretch in the low back, a little compression with the weight of my torso and my head. Warm up, sometimes called a rag doll because you're just kind of flopping around, not doing too much. But try to relax your neck. You want complete traction. Traction, not compression in the spine. We're kind of, this is actually an inversion because your head is below your heart. We'll come up nice and easy here, one vertebrae at a time. Walk our feet in together. We're going to do Surya Namaskar, a sun salutation. This is super common as a warm-up in flow classes, and oftentimes it's throughout the flow. So you do all kinds of funky cool stuff, and you travel through this Surya Namaskar, this sun salutation, and then you go back into it. It's really common. Pretty complex. I have a more detailed video right here on this channel. Don't forget to subscribe. But we're going to go through it here so you kind of know what to expect. Starting in mountain pose, where I'm tall and strong and still, like a mountain. Feet are together, quads are engaged, pelvis is neutral. That just means instead of poking my butt out, I try to tuck my tailbone under me, put my shoulders up tall, above my hips, not leaning forward, shoulder blades together, palms facing out. That helps us swing the shoulder blades together. When the palms are facing back, sometimes it's kind of a conflicting movement from the upper arm to the lower arm. So palms face out, looking forward, chin off the chest. As tall as I can be, imagine creating space in your spine in between those vertebrae. I inhale and reach up, trying to move only the arms, not the shoulders and the whole body. And then I forward fold, trying to keep my back flat. So I'm not flopping over yet. I'm trying to fold with a flat back to really create a hamstring stretch. When I can't go anymore, I let go, and then I round the back. And this is a key. When they say half lift, it's not necessarily half. It's back to where my back was flat. So if you're like really tight and your back was flat here, well, that's your half lift. Nobody cares. If you can get down a little bit lower with that back flat, then you round, and then your half lift brings you back to where you were. We're going to squat down and plant our palms, just like we did in that tabletop position. Plant, and then we're going to step back to a plank, which is kind of like a push-up position, but you still want your tailbone tucked, so you're not totally straight. You're a little bit up, kind of like you're cheating in gym class. Going to shift forward a little bit. You'll feel a pressure in your wrists and drop down halfway, Chaturanga Dandasana, sometimes called a yoga push-up. Another thing makes me think the yoga teacher never went to gym class or did any other sports, because you're not pushing up, you're dropping down. It should be called a yoga drop down. Elbows real close to the body, and my arms make about 90 degrees. Then without touching the ground, I flip my toes over, top of the foot, and I lift up, leading with the chest. Notice my knees aren't down. It's okay if they go down. is a different pose called Cobra or Bhujangasana. This upward dog is Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. You don't have to memorize any of that, but you're going to hear people showing off in class, playing like they speak Sanskrit. And of course, I'm just joking. But ask a yoga teacher how to say like semi-truck in Sanskrit. They won't know. They just memorize some posture names, which is cool. Leading with the chest, shoulders back. Knees are off the mat in up dog, and I'm trying to create a back bend, a huge extension of this spine. Now, lift up the hips, step the tops of the feet back upright, bottoms of the feet down, puts us in the downward dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. That's the whole thing. Now we have to travel back to where we had a forward fold. You can do that any way you want. Some people jump, some people take a lot of steps, some people just take a couple of steps. We lift up halfway again, and we forward fold. And then we lift all the way up. That's Surya Namaskar, that's sun salutation. Let's just do a couple more to make sure we have a feel for the movements. Mountain pose. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold, flat back, flat back, flat back, flat back, till I can't anymore. Then I round. Inhale, flat back. Bend the knees. Hands down. Stepping back to the plank, shift a little. You can hold it. This is great exercise for the triceps. You don't have to come up early. This is probably better for you than doing a bunch of push-ups. Chaturanga, top of the feet, upward dog, lift the hips, downward dog, and you'll notice as you do a few more of these, your calves start to open up a little bit because you're warming up the muscles. We'll look forward and travel back up however we like to. Half lift, forward fold. Inhale all the way up. One more time, we're going to start a super easy flow. Vinyasa or flow is just a group of yoga exercises that are connected together smoothly, almost like a little dance routine, as opposed to doing a pose and stopping and doing another pose and doing another pose. They're all connected. It's very, very mindful, very calming. Great way to warm up before you stretch later, which we are going to do. So, top of the mat. Mountain pose. Tailbone tucked. Shoulders up. Or up above the hips rather, not squeezed up, palms out. Inhale up, exhale, forward fold, plant the palms. Inhale, lift, exhale, plant the palms again, stepping it back, shift it, down for chaturanga, top of the feet, up dog, lifting the hips, down dog. All right, from here we're gonna start the flow by stepping up. Usually it's right side first. I don't know why, no one can tell me why. I assume it's because most people are right-handed. I'm gonna start with the left so you can see my positioning a little better. I lift the left leg, try to keep the hips down where they were. I'm not opening the hips. And if that means you can't lift your leg very high, nobody cares. Stepping it through by pushing and crunching to put that foot between my thumbs, and then I'm rising up to a crescent lunge on Jinayasana. My back leg is straight, front leg is bent, and my shoulders are over my hips as I reach up. The stretch here is in this flexor, the psoas muscle, the groin spot of the back leg. That's why I want it straight. If I bend it to get lower and look cool, the stretch is gone. So if that means I need to be up high, good for you. The idea is to stretch, not to look cool. Arms are up, same way they were in mountain. This is tough. I'm gonna open this to what's called Warrior A. I wanna keep my hips where they were and spin my heel flat by turning my thigh bone out, just like that. That's the whole thing. Some people, when they do it, they open and spin their body. We're gonna do that later. That's called Warrior B. So from this Jinayasana, this crescent lunge, as low as I can be, I'm gonna just spin my heel. Nothing else moved. That should add to the stretch because I pulled the thigh bone away from that muscle that's holding it in place. And that might mean you're like really high, as long as you're stretching. Crescent Lunge, Warrior A. Now we're gonna open it up, Warrior B. Turning the chest to the side of the mat. Front leg is bent, back leg is straight, with the foot at like a 45-degree angle. Shoulders are still over hips, I'm not all cockeyed, and then arms out in opposite directions. Level with the mat. Sometimes you're looking forward, focusing on the front arm, and this one gets all funky, even sometimes too high. So I'll look back and check it. I want my arms parallel to this mat. Front leg bent, straight over the ankle, not turned in. That can be bad on the knee. So I like to look down and see, can I see that big toe? If so, I'm in pretty good shape. Arms out in opposite directions. Reverse warrior is just a little side stretch. So watch me reach up this way and move nothing else. A lot of times people come out of this and they straighten the leg. That's also a pose, but it's not the one we're doing now. Bent front leg, straight back leg. Nothing moves except my shoulders. I pull them back to stretch the side of my body. Palm faces back, and I can look up. Other hand can do whatever. I like to reach it down my leg so our arms are going in opposite directions. Side angle pose. I'm gonna rest the front forearm on my knee, palm up, turn my body, look up and reach up. This starts to create a little bit of a twist in the spine, which is another direction the spine moves front to back. We just did side to side in the reverse warrior, and this is twisting in each direction. This is just a little twist. We're gonna add to the twist in a second. Notice how I'm reaching straight up. My shoulder isn't jammed, it's down off my ear. Back leg is straight, front leg is bent. I'm gonna look down, and with the high hand, I'm gonna reach down. Plant the mat, or fingertips, or a block, or whatever you have. Then the back heel comes off. Now I push with that down hand and reach up with the left, trying to make like a straight line from one wrist to the other. And this really forces a twist in the spine because my hips are stuck in place while I turn my shoulders the other way. And that is the flow. We're gonna do it a few more times and speed it up. Plant the palms, step the foot back to that plank. Chaturanga again, up dog, down dog. Now we'll do it on the right, which I know is out of order. Don't send me a comment. Inhale, left leg up on the back heel, step it through, squeeze if you can, set that foot down, rise up, feet wide enough to not be wobbly. Front leg bent, back leg straight. Hips are still square to the front of the room where you started. Shoulders over hips, reach up. Arms just like they were in that sun salutation. Remember to breathe. We're gonna drop the back heel only. Keep everything else in place. You're gonna wanna open those hips when that happens. Pull them back in line. Warrior A. Now we'll open it up. Warrior B. I push that front knee out to make sure I can see my big toe. Shoulders over hips. I can walk it in or out to adjust my depth. Arms in opposite directions. Everything stays side body stretch. Reach up and back. Don't come out of your lunge. Sometimes I have people get a teeny bit deeper in the lunge before they reach. Now, side angle. Front forearm rests. Back arm reaches up. A little bit of a twist. Now we'll look down, lift the back heel, plant the left palm. Big twist. Right arm up. Of course, remembering to breathe. I'm talking a lot, so I'm not breathing right, but you should be using your nose, inhaling out, exhaling in. Plant the palm. That's the flow on both sides. Stepping it back. Shift it into plank. Chaturanga. Up dog. Knees off the mat. Shoulders off of ears. Lead with the chest. Down dog. Let's try it again. Now that you've seen it, I'm gonna go back to the right side first, okay? We'll do it a couple more times and then we're gonna do some stretches. Inhale, right leg up. Hips are square. Stepping it through. Set that foot down. Rise up. On Jinayasana. Front leg bent. Back leg straight. Shoulders over hips. Just drop the back heel. Spin. warrior A. Now open it up, warrior B. Stay in the lunge, reverse warrior. Setting the front forearm on the front knee, side angle pose. Front leg bent, back leg straight, look down, reach down, lift the back heel, revolve side angle. It's so easy when someone explains it. Right hand down, stepping it back to the plank, shift, chaturanga, up dog, down dog. All right, let's do it on the left. Inhale, left leg up, hips are square, stepping it through. Set up your stance on Jinayasana, Crescent Lunge. Remember, the yoga is for you, so you modify these poses in any way that you need to. Turn the right thigh out, external rotation to drop the heel. Try not to open the hips. Now you can open them from warrior A to warrior B. Stay in the lunge. Reverse warrior, side body stretch. Front forearm down, reach up with the right, little bit of a twist. Notice how I'm trying to keep my hips low. I'm not leaning this way. I'm staying kind of in a line from my armpit to my ankle. Look down, reach down, right hand pushes away. Don't get crunched. Push away, back heel up, real twist now. Remember to breathe. Setting it down, stepping it back. You can always skip this chaturanga. Go right to down dog if you want. It's your yoga. If you go to a class and the instructor doesn't let you adjust the poses in a reasonable way, time for a different class. Shift, chaturanga, up dog, down dog. One more time, a little bit faster, and then we're gonna stretch. Inhale, right leg up. Stepping it up. Crescent lunge on the right side. Spin the back heel, warrior A. Open it up, warrior B. Reverse warrior, stay in the lunge. Side angle. Left arm reaches. Look down, reach down, back heel up. Revolve side angle. Plant the palm, step it back. Chaturanga, up dog, down dog. One more time on the left, then we'll be nice and warm. That's one of the things that a vinyasa or a flow does, is warm you up to stretch a lot later. So, inhale, left leg up, stepping it through. Rise up, crescent lunge, spin the back heel. Warrior A, open it up. Warrior B, reverse warrior. Side angle pose. Look down, reach down, lift the back heel, revolve side angle. Plant the palm, stepping it back, chaturanga, down and up and down again. Feels good. A lot of times this flow, push into that down dog, hips up, heels down, chest back toward the legs. A lot of times these flows are done on a 1 breath count. So every movement is a breath. You gotta move pretty fast. I like about a 2 breath count when I practice. Just kind of depends on the posture. Let's walk our feet up to our hands, back to that ragdoll pose. Gonna do a few forward folds, but some balances first. Again, really common in yoga. Rise up nice and easy. A balance is anytime your balance is challenged. For some people, that's just standing up straight. I have some older folks, and a lot of the practice is just spent in mountain pose with modifications of the hands. Usually, it means we're on one leg. So we're gonna do a super easy one here. But this relates to a lot of the other one-legged postures you do. So I engage just like I was in mountain. I shift the teeniest bit to the left, the teeniest bit. Don't clump my hip over. The teeniest bit so I can get my right leg off the ground. Everything's engaged. If you find yourself wobbly as heck with one leg off the ground, this is good practice for you. It starts to build balance. If you want a little more to stretch the quad, we're gonna reach down, kick that heel to our butt, and catch that foot. Try to bring the knee back in line with the other knee. Don't put it out here unless you're doing something weird. That'll screw up your balance like it just did to me. So mountain, shift, engage, catch. Now if you want that stretch, you can tuck your tailbone just like we did in mountain and pull a little with your bicep. Should be pretty still, feeling a quadricep stretch. I'm a little bit wobblier than I should be because I'm on a wrestling mat, but that's just a good excuse. If you're in class and you're wobbly, say, I used to practice on a wrestling mat. There's another movement, very common, called tree, where this foot of the standing of the lifted leg goes inside the thigh of the straight leg. And I'm trying to engage and be tall. I can put my hands in the middle and look cool. I can wiggle them around. Palmarasana, pretending I'm a palm tree, which I think was just made up for people who can't keep their balance. A version of this puts the foot in front also, sort of like a lotus, which stretches your hip. If you can, you bring it up really high, point the sole of the foot forward, and pull the knee back. But it's also a tree. Vrksasana. Let's try it on the other side. Shift the weight a teeny bit. Every balancing pose you do is going to require a teeny weight shift. Take the weight off the left. Grab that foot if you want, or just hold the foot up off the mat. Try to stand back up straight. If you find yourself in really funky spots for a long time, that might mean you need to start over. Grab that grip, straighten up tall, tuck the tailbone to stretch that quad, and try to stand upright and straight, just like mountain with one leg. You're going to find mountain pose is the foundation of all the other postures. A handstand is mountain pose upside down. Plank that we just did is mountain pose with your arms in front of you. Bring that foot up just to be balanced. Always in yoga, we try to do on the right what we did on the left, unless we're injured or something. Remembering to breathe. Try to stand tall. Tree pose. So those are balancing type postures. Forward folding is also really common, and there's lots of versions. So let's put our feet hip width, fold over like we did in sun salutation, reach as low as we can with our back flat. That should activate the hamstrings because your pelvis is tilted up, which adds tension to those hammies. When you can't go anymore, you round and try to find something for a grip. Big toe grip is super common in a group class. Peace sign fingers hook inside of the big toe. So between your second toe, I guess the index finger toe, and the big toe, and then I pull with my biceps and try to fold even more. So this just creates tension or a bind in the stretch. I can only get so far with gravity, so I grab something to pull more and add to the stretch. If you can't quite reach that far, grab your calves, as long as you're grabbing something that adds to the stretch, so it's not just gravity pulling you down. Remember to breathe. When I inhale, I pull a little. When I exhale, I relax. Usually 5 breaths or so in a group class for these types of poses, but you can't overdo it. If you're training on your own, hold as long as you want, coming up nice and easy. We'll do another common one, which is gorilla pose or hands under the feet. So I'm actually going to turn my palms down to the mat, do that same forward fold, and then lift one foot, slide the hand under. So I'm stepping on my palm, slide the other one under, stepping on my palm, trying to use the biceps to pull. I bring my body close to my legs. And again, if you're not that low, grab anything you want. If you're really high, grab your pants, as long as you have something to pull you down. And usually, when you get in a position that you can't get out of without letting go, that's called a bind. After 5 breaths or so, up nice and easy. Yogi Squat, another really common one called Malasana. We're going to put our feet a little more than hip width and then turn the toes out as much as we need to, and then squat right down as low as we can. Some people have a hard time compressing these knees. The idea eventually will be to have your hip and knee joint completely closed with your heel on the mat, so you're as low as you can go. If your heel's not down, don't worry about it. It's okay to come up a little, as long as you're really squatting. Some people want their heel down, but then they can only squat down halfway. You want to be as low as you can. Yogi Squat, Malasana. This is a compression exercise. The others are extension exercises. So flexibility is not just about how far you can reach with a joint, but how much you can close the joint. Try to have a straight back, probably not a vertical back, but a straight one, so we're not rounding over, unless we're specifically trying to stretch the back. Hands in front make you look like a real yogi, but it also helps pull you with your triceps between your knees. And we remember to breathe. This is a great posture. When people say yoga every day, it doesn't have to be rolling out a mat and lighting incense and getting all trippy. It could be watching TV like this. You're still practicing yoga. You're still moving your body and breathing. From here, we're going to find a seat for a seated forward fold. Same idea as standing, except we don't have to deal with any balance or anything but the stretch. Oftentimes in a class, it'll begin like we just did, slow. The pace will pick up. We'll do a few things standing, and then we'll have a seat to finish out the class when everybody's nice and tired. So whatever it takes, get back to your butt. Put your feet straight out in front of you, just like we were from this standing forward fold. Imagine everything's the same, except now my feet are together. Back is straight. I'm going to exhale as I reach and try to grab something. It could be anything. It could just be the back of your knees. If you can get to your toes again, cool. If you can reach behind the feet, that's cool. Once you've got the stretch and you can't pull yourself anymore, that's when I relax and I let my head drop. Again, a static stretch, once you're warm, can be held as long as you want, as long as it's not painful. You're going to find about 5 breaths in a lot of classes. So let's finish that out. Remembering to breathe. Toes are pulled back. We're not pointing them toward the front of the room. We'll come up nice and easy. Another really common one, almost every class to get the hips, is Pigeon Pose. There's lots of ways to modify it, but basically one leg is in front of you as a lever to help externally rotate your thigh bone and stretch your hips. So I'll start it on the left side so you can see. Right foot goes back, left foot is in front of me. My feet sort of make the shape, my legs kind of make the shape of an S. And now, this shin bone is in front of me, either directly perpendicular to my spine or a little bit pulled back, depending on my flexibility. And the other leg is behind me, straight with the knee on the mat. From here, this might be enough of a stretch. Remember, my body weight is on top of this shin bone, turning it out as a lever. For a lot of people, this is rough on the knee. There's modifications, but you can always bring the shin bone closer to you to alleviate some of the pressure. From here. If you can get to here and feel the stretch, that's fantastic. I like to pull a little bit back with the top of the rear foot. If you can get a little bit lower with your elbows down, that's cool. You may find that as you warm up and that hip releases, it's such a huge muscle, it takes a long time, that you can go all the way flat so your chest or stomach is on top of that front leg. I want to do this square to the mat though, so I'm not going to lean over just in hopes of being lower. I'm better off to be up and square and really getting a stretch. Large muscle, huge joint. You're usually in this for 5 breaths or more. Every time you exhale, try to melt a little bit. Imagine like a snowball on a hot sidewalk. You're just kind of getting flatter and lower and lower and lower. Remembering to breathe. You've had enough on that side. We try to keep it equal on each. You switch it out. There's lots of ways to enter pigeon. This is just a little spinneroo. Right leg will be in front. Left leg will be behind. Remember, maintain the integrity of the pose. That's a really big deal in Hatha Yoga. Try to do the posture properly with anatomical alignment to actually get the physical benefits rather than get higher or lower or reach some destination. The destination will come if you do it right. So there's nothing wrong with a pigeon pose that's way up tall. And you're usually going to find one side is more flexible than the other. If you can get a little lower, good for you. If you can get really low, that just means you've achieved spiritual purity and you can be dismissed. No, just kidding. Or maybe it does. It's up to you. It's your yoga. Remember to breathe and melt. Hands can go wherever they need to. Maybe you need a little bit of pushback because of that tension. Maybe you want to really reach and add a stretch for the triceps here. Remember, it's your yoga. When you've had enough, even on both sides, we're going to find a seated position to finish. Oftentimes cross-legged. Lots of versions of this. You can cross your legs like you did in school, crisscross applesauce, also called Indian style. So named because this is how Indians sit. You can do a half lotus where you put one foot up on top of the other. You can do a full lotus if it's in your practice, which is just pulling one leg up and then pulling the other leg up. So they're both hooked on top of one another. This is like the quintessential yoga pose you imagine when you look up yoga on Wikipedia. It's probably a picture of a guy doing this. Hands can go wherever they want to. Middle of the body, resting, making a mudra. That's a yogic hand gesture. Finishing with the same breaths that we started with. Through the nose, big inhale. Big exhale. Big inhale. Big exhale. You might do 3 of these, you might do 5 of these. You might sit here for a long time. It's really common in class to finish with the sound of Om, which is this really cool sort of acoustic sensation on everyone's ears. If you get like 10 or 20 people in class to go, you've probably heard it before. Imagine saying and then adding it all together. It's not just Om. So, that vibration is really cool in a class, and it kind of sets the pace to relax you. Really common to finish in corpse pose that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, or Savasana. It's just as relaxed as you can be with your feet wide and your legs wide and your feet flopping out. Your shoulder blades down like we were in mountain, with your palms up and your arms out from your body, sort of like we were in mountain. The back of your head down with your chin off your chest. It's about the easiest pose to describe, but sometimes the hardest to do when you think you gotta leave to do chores or pick up kids or whatever, or when your mind is racing. Sometimes holding still in yoga is the most difficult thing because in our culture, we're used to moving. So I lay out flat, palms up, feet out, shoulder blades under me, and back of the head down. Usually the lights will go out. Sometimes you're in this position for a long time. Sometimes you fall asleep. Don't roll up your mat and try to bail in the middle of the Savasana, or people will hate you. They're trying to relax and meditate. If you gotta go, roll up and bail before Savasana, or just tough it out and wait the 5 minutes and leave then. And if you get somebody who really jumps your case for coming in a little late, or leaving a little early, or adjusting the pose to be your yoga, take your money and go to another yoga school, or watch cool videos like the ones you find in the machine. I hope this helped. Please leave a comment, let me know what you think, and do the yoga. It's your yoga. You can do it anywhere, anytime, as long as you remember to breathe. Namaste.
But the whole point of the machine is to relieve you of that suffering.